Hey guys, welcome to my the latest movie review for the 2025 movie, The Wolf Man. No, I'm just kidding actually. It's not called The Wolf Man, not to be mistaken for the 2010 version called The Wolf Man, which is, it is technically an era film. This is, I kind of want to say a reimagining, but anyway, guys, I'm going to roll the introduction, the cast, synopsis, and the director, and then obviously I'll play my introduction, and let's talk about the 2025 movie, Wolfman. See you soon. So anyone who has been following my channel for any period of time, first of all, welcome back. It's so good for you to be here. I really genuinely, wholeheartely, as always, really value you watching my movie reviews. And those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. It's so good for you to be here. I really appreciate you clicking on this link. And those of you who have just clicked on this link for Wolfman, I just want to give you a really quick heads up about my channel, just so you know, and if you don't know, you're about to know. I actually don't do spoilers. That's right, no spoilers at all. You won't get spoilers from me in my movie reviews, because in my personal opinion, spoilers aren't fair. However, when I do talk about a movie or a scene in that movie, I actually talk about it contextually. That way, when you go and see it, if you haven't seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you have seen it, and I'm about to tell you about it, you'll know what I'm talking about when I talk about that scene. So without further ado, guys, again, thanks for clicking on this link. And for those of you who haven't and you're new, please go ahead and go and subscribe. Just before I get started, go and like this review, leave a thumbs up. And if you'd be so kind, leave a little bit of feedback on my movie review and let me know your thoughts while you're at it. I really appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Like I said in the opening of this review, guys, don't get this review or this movie confused with the 2010 version, that version of The Wolfman with Anthony Hopkins and Emily Blunt, because this is not that version in any way, shape or form to any degree whatsoever. However, they do pay a lot of homage. I think the word is homage. I think that's the word. They do pay a lot of homage to the 2010 version of that movie. Not in the elements of like the era that's filmed in. Not like that. But I'll get into that in a little bit later in this movie review, and I'll touch on a little tiny bit with it. It's not overly done, but it does pay a massive nod to it. However, so as you saw, guys, the director of this film actually has an element of where he originated from. And if you don't know where he originated from, that's actually Adam from the first ever Saw movie. So that's him. That's Adam. That's one of the main two characters from that movie. And one of the things that I really valued about where they give the nod to Adam's character in this movie is actually right at the end of this movie in the barn sequence. Now, I'm not going to give anything away, but I will tell you that's in the barn sequence. And when you see it, you're like, that's clever. Really well done. And I love how they tied that into him. So we as an audience know, that's right. That's what happened with him in Saw. And I thought that was really clever. I want to talk about the visuals in this movie. Now, the audio in this movie is just outstanding. In my personal opinion, guys, this is just my personal opinion. Now that I've seen the film, I would really encourage you, if you can get the opportunity, go and watch this movie in Dolby Atmos. Now, that's where I personally saw this at my local cinema. I saw it in Dolby Atmos, and it's the best cinematic audio and visual experience besides besides IMAX that you're going to get in a cinematic experience. Dolby Atmos is what it is, and if you don't know what Dolby Atmos is, it's a complete immersive surround sound. It's absolutely fantastic. It is the latest in technology, and that's how I saw this film. The thing that I liked about it so much is it really did engulf me in this film. It really did. I'm going to talk about the visuals in a second, but I just want to harp on the audio. The audio, it really was submersive. Like, it really was. And that's what I valued so much about so much of this film, because it really impressed in me that where I was, and it just brought me more audibly into the movie. Now, as well as the audio of this film, I want you to pay very close attention to when they're in the deer spy hut. So basically, it's this man-made kind of a cubby house that's up in a tree that they get there by a ladder, and it has like an eye view cut out of it. Now, there's sequences in that, and I think they're in it about twice. I think it's just twice in the movie, at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, when the actors are in the deer hut, and you need to pay very visual close attention to I'll call it mist. It's not mist, but it's very similar to that. And I guess it is kind of mist. And how they create that to show something of a visual palette to what's about to happen. And I tell you now, I really love how they executed that, because it just gave more of a depth and a more of a creepy vibe to the scene that was taking place, and it really worked. The execution of that was outstanding, and I loved it. An element of this movie that they really executed so well was actually the truck crash scene. And if you've seen the trailer, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's actually in the opening sequences of the trailer. That sequence in this movie, it's not the beginning of the film, which I thought it would have been, but it's not at all. It's actually after the beginning of the film, and it's really well done. The camera angling, the audio, and the acting of all the characters in that sequence, it really elevated that part of the movie to just, it gripped you. It really gripped you. It brought you in. It gave you that real deep element of suspense, and something heavy and hardcore was about to happen. And it's kind of fascinating, because as you see the glass break, and then something happens to his arm. Now, the thing that I really appreciate what happens to Blake's arm is, you think that it's one thing, but then they go into the movie a little bit further, and it's actually something else. And I really valued that, because when they reveal what actually happens to his arm, he doesn't actually get cut by glass, but they make it seem like he does, but it's not. And I really liked how visually and audibly they make you think one thing, but it's actually something else. And just the way they unfold that sequence all together it really does stretch the imagination and make you as an audience member just get, heightened awareness and senses and just that fear factor. And it's really clever. This movie, Wolfman, honestly is one of those movies that is just going to provoke kind of fear, but more the element of suspense and just like really thrilling elements to it. Another way that the director has really brought the audio element of Wolfman in this reimagining of the genre is actually an audio paletted sequence in this movie that has to do with the spider. Now, I'm not going to give anything away, but I just want you to pay really close attention. And you honestly, when it happens, you're going to be honestly, in my personal opinion, I think you're going to be really impressed, because I was really impressed with how that sequence of events really unfolds, because it's very intentionally, audibly played out until we visually see what he's hearing. And then when we see it, it's like, oh, that is so good. And it's really harping on what he's becoming from how the director is showing what Blake is turning into. And I was like, man, it just, for me, I ate that up. I really did, because when you see scenes that the director, they don't just want it to be, oh look, that's that and that's that, and let's go and tie it together and it's over and done with. The director went, no. Let's take the audience on a sequence of events that the ending of that sequence of events turns out to be so much more and yet so little to what is actually happening in the sequence. And when you see the spider sequence, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, it really paid itself off, and I loved it. Now I just want to talk about really quickly something again that the director goes through in the Saw movie, but they actually use it at the. It kind of is at the end of this movie. It's heading towards the end of this movie, and I won't give it away, but I'll just tell you this. It's to do with his leg. That's all I'll say. It's to do with his leg, and it's to do with Blake's leg. And when you see it, you'll be like, oh wow. So I'm just letting you know what happens to Blake's leg. Not in the house, because something happens to his leg in the house. When it happens to him in the barn, that scene right there is actually paying homage to Adam's character in Saw. And I was like, man, so unbelievably creative. And speaking of creative, that is an awesome tie-in to my next part of this movie review, guys. When you see Blake's view of the world through his eyes, I love how they did it. I really love how they did it. They made the camera pan from one character, literally turn around to see it from another perspective, and they did it very slow transition. And as they do it both ways, so you see it from both people's perspective, it's completely different on both people's perspective. Charlotte's perspective, which is Blake's wife, and then Blake's perspective into how he sees Charlotte. It is so good, and obviously their daughter's involved in that as well in some sequences. But the way they do it each time, in my personal opinion, guys, I really, really value that. And the thing that I valued so much about that is it's an element to it for today's technology. And the reason why I loved how they did that is because it was such a disconnect from the 2010 version, because again, it's not the same in any way, shape or form. Even though that version is called the Wolfman, this is called Wolfman. It's a very, very intentional disconnect from that movie, because the Wolfman, again, that's a very, very specific era film, and Wolfman is a very today's, really intentional today's version of it. So instead of them really heavily bringing us the elements of a complete transformation of what he looks like visually, again, they do that completely different to the 2010 version. It's completely disconnected in this 2025 version to Wolfman. Like, and I kid you not when I say that the disconnect is really, really well crafted. Like, it honestly is. The acting in both movies, I'm going to say, is on par. It really, really is. Now, those of you who have been following me for any period of time, I know I normally talk about this at the start of my movie reviews, but I really wanted to flesh out a couple more things before I talked about this. And both films, the Wolfman and this Wolfman, they both have it. And those of you who have been following my channel for any period of time, you know what I'm about to say right now. Character chemistry. Like, both movies, they feed off it. They really, really do. Honestly. This movie, Wolfman, is much more of a slow burn. Much more of a slow burn than the Wolfman 2010's version, because it kind of, the reason why is because the 2010 version had so much of a big Oscar nominated characters in it, whereas this doesn't. And that is in any way, shape or form, no diss to this version of it in any way, shape or form. But the elements that they bring in the 2025 version is so creative. Like, I don't know if you saw, I can't remember what cinema score it was. I can't remember what company it was, but somebody gave this a C-. I don't agree with that. Because all film is subjective, guys. You might watch this film and think this is really boring, but like I said, they intentionally don't just jump into it. They don't just dive into it, which I really valued about this movie. And the opening sequences of Wolfman are very, 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 very intentional to how they lead up to what the new aspect of it is. And I think you're going to find a lot of value in that, guys. And honestly, guys, my personal opinion, they really, really brought this movie home. Like, they really did. And I was really, really impressed of how they tied the ending of the 2010 version to the 2025 version, because it is very similar. So if you've seen the 2010 version, The Wolfman, that it's not the same, but it's very similar. And when you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And those of you who have seen it, yeah, you get it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this movie review up. That's all I have to say about this movie review. I was really impressed. I'm so glad I saw it. In my personal opinion, like I said, guys, go and check this movie out in Dolby Atmos, in VMAX, in the biggest cinematic experience you possibly can, because in my personal opinion, the audio really, really, really does play a massive role in this movie, just like the visuals do, but the audio's, like, it is what it is. Like, it really does heighten the cinematic experience to watching this like just in your average TV. Like it won't be the same in any way, shape or form. I appreciate you guys being here so much. Like I said at this movie review, guys, if you haven't already, please go ahead, like, subscribe, do all those awesome good things, and I really value being here. Thank you. Like always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. You know that I do. Seriously. And until my next movie review or whatever my next video might be that I'm bringing you the content for, guys, don't forget who brought you this movie review. Guys, this is Superman Steve, appreciating your time and always loving you. Flying out!